Good morning. We're learning a Maimer from Likuti Torah, the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, and the Maimer is going to discuss the concept of libations, Hanesochim, and the korbanos, and how they come together, how and why they come together. Go straight to the Maimer. Inyan Hanesochim. Torah Parshas Tzav v'me'ochel yochel mibasar zerach shlomo. If it will be eaten, twice it says, if it will be eaten, it will be eaten from the meat of its peace offering. Azal. There are two types of achilas, two types of eating. One is the achilas mizbeach. The first one is the consumption of the mizbeach, and one is the consumption of the kohanim, which is called achilas odom. Achilas odom and achilas mizbeach. Achilas mizbeach is the innards that were placed on the mizbeach, and their placement on the mizbeach is also considered achila consumption. We need to understand the concept of korbanos, of offerings that were brought on the mizbeach, min habokar, min hatzoyin, etc. Habokar means from the cattle. Why is it considered eating? It's being burnt on the mizbeach. Why are you calling it eating? There's other expressions in Parshas Pinchas, Parshas Veiko, where it says lechem mishul havaya, a bread that is offering to Hashem, and then it says lachmi leishai, which my bread, my offerings. So really, what happens when you bring a korban? And what is the meaning of these expressions that korbanos are called lechem, called bread, and the consumption of Hashem, so to speak, consumption of God? What does it mean that God is eating and drinking, so to speak, and we are, the Jewish people, are somewhat, so to speak, sustaining Him with meat, bread? This whole thing is wondrous. How can we understand it? So Alter Rebbe explains Inyan Hanesochim. We'll start with the libations. That they would pour wine on the altar. They would anoint the altar, so to speak, with wine. So when they would bring offerings, they would bring accompaniment of wine. They would accompany the offering with wine. The wine used to be poured on the mizbeach, on the altar, and it would ultimately descend through the holes. It's called shisin. They were under the mizbeach. It would reach the well, the bottom of the earth, tehoim, the abyss. Asher ulichero pele. This seemingly is a wondrous thing. Heifich hakorban shubichinas salo. It's exactly doing the opposite of what the offering is doing. The offering is being elevated, right, going on high. Look at the smoke, the fire. It's going on high. What happens with the wine? It's being poured down. It goes to the abyss. It goes to ultimately to the ground. So it says the opposite of offering, that it's elevation. You check the bull or the sheep, which is on the level of the living. Now his life is taken away from it. In the life, he's ascending on high. Gam Atar, Onon, Akobon, Oilamalo, even the cloud the Korban creates, the smoke, is ascending on high. Ava Nesochim V'Semeach. Nesochim, the libations are coming from the level of vegetations. Umorid in Lamata Latem, but eventually they descend. We're taking them down. Physically, we see they're going down when it comes to the libation. So we see that the libation is exactly the opposite of what was done with the bull or the sheep with the offerings. Instead of going up, it's going down. Another question. Beside the striking opposites between the korban and the libations, why specifically wine? Why not oil? Why not water? ולמה נסוחים דווקא יין? וגם שהקורבן אינו לריח ניחוח אלא עם הנסוחים. So the korban is not called reach nichoach. What is reach nichoach? Pleasant aroma. So the korban is not considered pleasant aroma only when it comes together with the libation. K'maimar Hazal, kol hakir kriyas shema b'li tefillin kezevach b'lo nisochim. It says, the rabbis told us that if you say Shema, you say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, without tefillin, it's as if you bring an offering without libation. Okay?
Yeah.
It's like something is missing. What is missing? The reach nichoach, the pleasant aroma. So why is it that if you don't bring the korban with the wine, it's not ascending on high? It's not pleasant aroma anymore. So we see that the intention of the korbanos is being complete specifically through the nesachim, through the libations. Otherwise, it's not accepted. Like we just said, the Shema, saying Shema, it's like without feeling. It's like bringing a korban without libations, and it's like there the rabbi says keilu as if made edus sheker. He testified false testimony. Because you read in the Shema, you tie it on your hand, put it between your eyes, the whole concept of tefillin, and you're not wearing tefillin. So this chapter is going to explain the special concept of wine.
I'm surprised you didn't talk about salt a little bit.
About?
Salt.
Salt, okay. There's a mimer about salt. A whole mimer about salt. והעניין הוא על פי מה שכוסו ויין ישמח לבב וכו'. It says in Tilim 104:15, chapter 104 verse 15, ויין ישמח לבב, the yain makes the heart joyful.
Right.
החדלתי אסירוישי המשמח אלוקים. And then it says in the book of Shoftim, chapter 9:13, it says, "Ichadalti es tiroishi, amesameach alekim." That the wine, tiroishi is wine, makes alekim also joyful. So mesameach alekim makes alekim joyful. Yain yasamach levav also anoshim. The rabbi said that we don't say Shira, and the Gemara in Erchin 11a, Gemara over there says that you don't say Shira Ela Layain, that the Levim in the Beis Hamikdash would sing specifically at the time of the pouring of the wine. The libations of the wine was done, that's the time that they would sing. They said, Ein Shira Ela B'yain. When is the real singing done? When there is wine. So it's a pele. It's something that is wondrous. What does that mean? The joyful of Elohim. What the Hashem's joy with wine, with physical wine. Something that needs to be understood. So in order to understand the joy that is created above, simcha above, we have to understand the simcha below. What is simcha? Simcha means somebody smiles. Simcha means what? Ki simcha v'chinas gilui ha'elem shadai yain u'oi b'yem chatunose v'simchas liboi yetz ha'elem v'tzpun l'vav min ha'elem l'gilui. So he says, really, in general, simcha is something that is, you're revealing something that was concealed. Something that is hidden is now exposed, that brings simcha. So when somebody is in a state of joy, a state of simcha, you can see it through his speech, through his actions. Usually what happens is the Gemara in Reuven says, Nichnas yain yotzasoid. When the wine enters, the secret comes out, meaning the inner self is coming out. So the simcha of the nefesh, simcha, the inner simcha, brings and draws down the essence of the nefesh to the outside, to be now external. And as an outcome of this simcha, it reveals the recesses of his heart. The innermost is being revealed. You can see even that in a state of simcha, individual, I would say, character can change. Meaning, if someone, usually, let's say, a miser, okay, he's a miser, he's a cheapo,
right?
But he's in a state of simcha, he will be suddenly will be expensive and it will give out.
Right.
Why? Because the nature of being cheapo is only on the external external part.
Right.
Once you reveal the inner simcha, he gets over it. Could be that what we portray, it's only our external being. We're so used to it that we think that this is who we are. But the yain reveals the inner you, and the inner you can be opposite of the outer you. So let's take we give the example of a accountant of someone that is cheap, right?
Yeah.
The outer person is cheap. The inner person can be exactly the opposite. It'd be expensive and giving to everybody. That's what he's saying. So when you're in a state of simcha, the inner you is being revealed.
Sometimes it doesn't reveal such good things.
Maybe it's not a true simcha, number one, if it doesn't. And maybe it's not something that was motivated by wine.
Because I was reading, there was a singer named Glenn Campbell. You don't, anyway. So he was, when he got drunk, he was very nasty drunk. When he was without it, he was a nice guy. You know, his wife had to deal with it for 30 years till he died. Well, then he got Alzheimer's and then he died. He was a very nice singer and he did a nice show, but when he got drunk, forget about it. Had to keep him away. He was Alfie.
Yes, כי הנה בכל דבר אין צומציוס יש בחינת פנימיס ובחינת חיצוניס. Anything that we see in this world, you have to understand that it has an outer level and an inner level. Okay? Pnimi subechinas kabola shifa v'chayuso dvekusa v'ilose. Chitzonis bechinas hashpola zulose. It says that the pnimi, the inner being, is the receiving aspect of you, and the external hashpola zulose is the part of you that gives. The inner takes, the outer gives. That's what it means. Pnimi subechinas kabola shifoi v'chayusoi udvekusoi beilosoi. Accepting it, taking it in. Chayus, godly life, your godly given life, and dvekusoi beilosoi, meaning you are connected to your ilah, to your cause. We are the effect. It's the cause and the effect, right? Everything was created with cause and effect, ilah and olu. So, dvekusu beiloso, meaning your inner being is always connected to its source. So it's in a state of receiving. It tells us two things about the pnimi, the inner. Is mekabel, is receiving, and is connected to its ilah, connected to its source. Now, the chitzonius part of you, the outer part, is the part that gives out. Ashpol lezulos. Now it's going to, obviously we'll continue elaborating on this concept. Ke'ein lecho esev she'ein lo mazel. It says even a blade of grass has mazel, has a calling from above. It says it in Bereshis Rabba, chapter 10, verse 6. Comes to fruit, to grass, to wheat, it has two levels. What is it? Ta'am apri, shubechinas ruchni, betzem amoshes apri. You look at the fruit. General, it has two things: the flavor of the fruit and the fruit itself.
Okay.
Well, you can take two apples; they'll taste differently, right?
Right. You have different types of apples.
Right. You have ta'am apri, the taste of the fruit,
Yeah.
and the body of the fruit,
Okay.
the physical aspect of it. You can have the physical. You have the physical person, the human being, and you have its flavor, the way he speaks, the way he laughs, the way he conducts himself, the way he behaves, flavor. It could be a good character, it could be, God forbid, the opposite.
Right.
So when it comes to tzemeach, to the vegetation, you always have these two inyanim. It's ruchni part, it's spiritual part. The spiritual part means that that's where you nurture your temperament, your character traits. You're nurturing it from somewhere. And nothing is just yours. It's being taken from somewhere. So when you say the ruchni part, means that's the place where you tap in to get these things that you have. So when it comes to vegetation, it taps into a place of sweetness to be sweet, or he taps into a place of sourness to be sour.
I don't know if you can say it has to do a lot with the soil and how that would.
He says that the physical part of the fruit is created from the power of soil that is in the land. But the flavor of the fruit, which is, like I said, the spiritual aspect of the fruit, it says it's from the mazel. The chayus, the life that is given to the fruits is taken from the mazolis. What is the mazolis? The stars, the sky. Comes to tam, flavor. Well, two koiches, two powers. Koyach lekabel shifim and koich v'morim, the power to receive its flow from the stars in heaven, She'em hamatzmichim, they are the growers. Kemoishe kosu, we say it in Mimegit v'Shomesh u'Megit Geresh Shirochim.
The sun.
Right? It's
Shemesh.
It's the Parshas, I believe, Parshas Zoy Sabocho. Zoy Sabocho, it says over there, chapter 33. It says, Mimegit v'Shomesh u'Megit Geresh Shirochim. Shemesh is the sun, yeah? Yerochim is referring to the moon. And it says, V'chen kol koichov proti matzmiach esev proti. Every specific star creates growth in a different types of vegetation. Each one is in charge of something else. And the power to give its flavor in the body of the food. So we have koyach hapnimi, we have the inner power, which is the flavor, that connects to the mazolis, to receive chayus, to receive life, vitality, and the second power is the external, that so the tam, the flavor, is now giving itself into the, which flavor is something, is coming from ruchni, from a spiritual place, but now it gives itself into the food, to the physical part of the food. So when you eat the food, you feel the flavor that was given from the mazel, from the spiritual mazel. V'chen gavor mal gavor. So it says in Kohelet, Shlomo HaMelech says gavoya mal gavoya, meaning tall, and then there's higher and higher and higher. Meaning that these two levels of inner and outer, the power of acceptance, of receiving from above, and the power of flow down here, it goes to higher and higher levels. Why? Because mazolis are receiving from the malochim, and malochim are receiving from a higher level than them. Each mashpia is really a mekabel. Every giver is a receiver. For example, let's say your friend Bill Gates, right? He's a mashpia, right? He is a, what does it mean? He is a mashpia. He's a philanthropist, right? So philanthropy. How can he give? He has to receive from somewhere, right? Right. So he received dividends from from Microsoft, and now he takes the dividends and he gives some of it to charity, or what he called charity, at least. Yeah. Okay. So really, the big shot, Mr. Gates, is also a receiver. Mashpia, he gives, but he's also a mekabel. He has to be a mekabel in order to give. So he tells us, really, the Alter Rebbe says that every mashpia is a mekabel. So if the mazolis, the constellations, the stars and the moon have to do with, obviously they have to do with the growth. Okay. Growth of vegetation, and mazel, it hits it and tells to grow. Right. So, but that mazel also has to receive from somewhere. So although it's giving, but ultimately it's also a mekabel. They all receive from Hashem. So mashpia mekabel. So within you there's a mashpia and there's a mekabel. If I teach you something you don't know, then you're mekabel. If you go and teach it to someone else, you're mashpia. Right. That's that. V'chem b'b'chinas hachai, and also in the level of chai. You want to close it? Yeah. Also, when it comes to the level of chai, animals. Chayuso shu bechinas pnimis v'ruchnis udovik beilos bechinas pnei. It says the Chai is receiving from the image of the lion above. The animals. Pnei shorish v'amerkavo. Receive from the image of the ox in the chariot, or the image of the lion. It says that the image of the lion gives life to all the animals, the non-domesticated animals. And the image of the ox gives life to all the domesticated animals. Okay? So lion in charge of all the non-domesticated chayos, and the ox is in charge of all the domesticated ones, the behemoths. And the life that is giving, the life generated from above, that ultimately vivifies the body and the flesh of the animal, is external. So meaning the animals also have inner and outer, just like vegetations and fruits have inner and outer, the physical of the fruit and the flavor of the fruit. You have the same thing in animals. Pnimius achayus, the inner vitality, represented by the fact that it wants to be connected to its source. Image of the ox, image of the lion, the Merkava, that is described in the vision of Yechezkel. So these levels are the source of all the animals and the chayos and the non-domesticated animals. So the inner nefesh of the chay of the animal is connected to the Merkava to receive chayos from it. The outer part of the animal is the spiritual chayos that descending down to give life to the body and to the meat, to the flesh of the animal, and whether it's a chaya or behema, the domesticated or non-domesticated, the physical one. So interestingly, he says there is part that goes up and part that goes down. The inner aspect of the animal is ascending on high to receive, going to get, and then there's the part that spiritual chayus, spiritual energy, that comes down to give life to that physical animal, to the flesh of the animal. And now we're getting to the human being. Comes to nefesh odom. The root of the nefesh connects to his cause, to his ilah, to the power, to the chayus that he gets, to his source. What is our source? Pnei odom, the image of man. The same way the image of the lion gives life to the non-domesticated animals, and the image of the ox gives life to the domesticated, the image of Adam gives life to all human beings. Pnei odom. So what is the chitzonius hanefesh? Is the ashpah that gives life to the body. The outer aspect of the nefesh is the flow that gives life to the body. So the inner nefesh wants to be connected to Pnei Odom. It wants to be connected to the image of man. The outer nefesh is giving life to the body. So your nefesh really is doing two things at the same time. Goes up to receive chayus, connect itself to Pnei Odom, and gives life to the body, extending what it receives to the body. So the external part of the nefesh, the life of a person, it's the vitality of the nefesh that is now disseminating in the body, in the limbs of the body, to give them life, and that's the lowest part of the nefesh that has to go out to give life to the body, the lowest part within the nefesh. This is from the Mittal Rebbe's explanations. V'chein v'malochim ksiv. It says, we also say it in davening, Mekablin dein midin, Mekablin dein min dein. Right? They receive one from the other. That's what it means. Mekablin dein midin. What does it mean? They receive one from the other. Sha'koyach sheyesh b'malach lemar kaddish u'mekabel milamayla. The power that the angel has to say kaddish is receiving from above. How does the angel can say kaddish? He says, or kodesh, kodesh. He receives it from above. He received that power from above. They're giving permission to one another to give. What is the reshus, the permission of that they give each other, allowing their flow to continue to others. Giving to other angels as well. So mekabel dein midain means the malach, the angel, is mekabel, is receiving, is a taker. But where is he receiving? From a malach that is higher than him. Power to say kodesh, whatever it is. So that's the meaning of the pasuk Gavoya Mal Gavoya that we said in Koheles, Shlomo Melech, chapter 5, verse 7, Gavoya Mal Gavoya, Shoimeru Gvoim Aleim, that there's always one higher that gives. Every malach receives from a malach that is higher than him. And that malach that angel is the mashpia. And that mashpia is also mekabel, is also a taker. So what are you receiving? You're receiving the pnimius of that malach, the innermost of that malach. So what he's saying, davening, we say v'noistim be'avo reshus zelozeh. They give each other reshus with avo. What does it mean reshus? That they are giving each other, but with avo, with love. They like.
Isn't reshus permission?
Right. But he explained to us over here, what does it mean? They're giving each other reshus, that they are sharing their flow. They're giving their vitality to one another, the power to say kodesh, whatever it is. But it's referring to the outer part of the malachim. The lower part within every malach is the energy that goes out of him. So you can say kodesh. In general, the disseminations of the degradation of the worlds is also like this. You have mashpia mekabel, and the mashpia itself is a taker. The giver is a taker. It says in Eitz Chaim, which was the writing of Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, the disciple of the Arizal. He writes in Eitz Chaim that all these degradations of Ilo ve'olu, cause and effect, is mibchina chitzonis, is the outer. That each one gives its outer level to the next. So without our chitzonius, without our external being, we would not be able to give. We wouldn't even have seder ishtalshelus. Because when you say pnimi means that is now connected to its source. That's what pnimi means. Pnimi does not give. Pnimi connects to the source and receives. the outer aspect is the part that gives and creates a bond, creates a connection between the cause and the effect. הרי שבכל הנמצאים יש בחינת פנימיס. With all the created beings, there is a level of pnimi, of inner, shumuloshen ponim, the expression of ponim, face, shepirush loshen poine, kifonu elai, that is turning to. Pone means turning to, or they turn to me, kifonu elai, al teifen, don't turn to him, shubechinas kol ilo shepeinu v'dovuk beilose. This is a Parshas Shelach. Next week we're going to read about Moshe Rabbeinu asking Hashem not to turn to their offering, right? 250 Rosh Sanhedrin. So he says Al Teifen El Menchosim, the word poine, same root. Don't turn to their offering. That's the level of Shu Bechinas Kol Ila Shepoine V'Davuk Beilose. Every cause is Davuk, is connected to its source, to its Ila, to its Ilose. V'Chitzonus Bechinas Hashpas Shifo Lachutz. And the outer Chitzoni, anything that is external, gives out or gives his Hashpah outside of him. So the inner level of everything, right? We said everything in this world is inner and outer. The inner you, for example, is always turning to its source, to the part that gives him, right? Turns to the higher level that gives. Yeah, the Amitay Rebbe used an example of the face, that wherever the face is turning, that's where the body is going, right? Turn your face that way. They say in driving, if you see an obstacle on the road, don't look at it because you're going to end up there, right? Because where the face is, and the hand ultimately will go. If you're driving and you're looking over there, your hands will ultimately turn the wheel. Turn the wheel that way. If you want the ball to reach somewhere, you have to look where you want it to go.
Right. Of course, sometimes it goes to, you don't have the clubs right, and whatever. But we got it.
Yeah.
But let's not go.
Okay, we'll continue. The big shall be continued. Thank you all for watching.